In today's video, Dog Squad, we are going to be doing an NFL tier ranking video for the first time this offseason. We're going to be today tier ranking what playoff team is each NFL team going into this 2025 NFL season. It's not basically like my playoff predictions because I don't do that till August or September, just until closer to when I'm ever done with all my predictions, which will probably be close to August or September. But that's what we'll be doing. We're just going to be going baseline, like what type of team are they? You know, just kind of like when you say what are they, like a 9 or 10 win team or something like that. Kind of getting the standard of what they are. But as we get into this video, make sure to subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss more videos. We're on the road to at least 1.1K subs, and of course the big ones are 1.5K and especially 2K. So hopefully we can get that at least soon. But I know it's going to take a while. We're right now closing trying to get to 1.02K. So it'd be great if we can get to 1.02K as well. So here we go. We're going in this video. Make sure to subscribe, like I said, and let's get rolling, Dog Squad. Dog Squad, sorry you got the ads right here. But we do start off with the LA Rams. We got playoff contenders. This Rams team we've seen in the past, about since 2018, since they're really good. And besides 2020, of course, but even then they were 4 seed. They usually get in the playoffs and just hang around in there. At least we've seen that the past couple of years. Their defense hasn't been as good as they used to be. They're trying to improve that. Their offense, though, they got a good quarterback right now, Matthew Stafford. They got a couple good receivers out of Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, which I think he's still pretty good. He's not obviously better he's not as good as he used to be, but he is in that range. And we do see just a Rams team that's that's pretty good every year, in the middle of everything when it comes down to who's really good and who's a borderline team. And we'll go over that in just a second, what these categories mean. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. But the Rams are just in the mix there, and I think they will be just a playoff contender this year. If you do see Super Bowl contenders are just elite contenders, will make an NFC, AFC/AFC championship run or Super Bowl or even win it. Playoff contenders are usually like the wild card and divisional guys. Maybe can make me sneak into that NFC, AFC championship. Now it does, like if it's a team where like I have no belief in them, it's really just based off the team overall. Like if maybe there will be maybe a couple teams like yeah they're gonna make it, but most of the time they don't usually make it that far. But you know there's usually the category mixes for them in the first place. But we'll go over that in just a second when it comes down to one of those teams. Browns draft time, man. They've got a quarterback situation when they got an older one that's still good but just not what it used to be, and then you got two youngies. Rookies, Shadur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, and then you got Kenny Pickett that's not really a starter, and of course Deshaun Watson, and then they don't have really any offensive weapons. You know, they don't have a Nick Chubb, and then they got Jerome Ford, but he's not going to be able to do everything, and then he's just a running back, and of course you have the defense is good, but they're not as good as they used to be, and they can get injured. It's the whole thing. The Browns need to go. They just gotta maybe can get that first overall pick. And they can maybe draft a quarterback. They should have done that in the first place. I don't know what they were doing, but it's the Browns, so who knows. The Falcons, the borderline team. They're always in that mix they've been in that mix for a couple of years with the Buccaneers trying to win the NFC South. I'm not saying if they are or not because I haven't done my prediction on them. But they are a team that will get to like the top, like the division. You know, they can't get there, but they barely are in the playoff picture, or they aren't, and they probably will be that team. They got a new Michael Penix is starting this year. They got some pretty underrated receivers, of course. Tight end Kyle Pitts. It depends what game he plays. The defense is is not a bad defense at all. I would say they're in the middle of the pack as well. They're just a team that is like the middle of the NFL, and it's just to see what team they are. That's exactly what they are. They got Raheem Morris is coming off year 1, going into year 2, so we'll see what he kind of makes improvement wise. Kirk Cousins, obviously, he's benched. He's been benched since he had those stretch of games where he's throwing interceptions. So we'll see. Okay, this is a perfect example. The Chargers. They're a team that maybe can make a Super Bowl, but they're not. They're just a playoff contender, and I think they could honestly make a run, but they're just in the set. They're just there. They haven't really proved anything. They've had a really good regular season, but they're just there. Jim Harbaugh obviously turned the program around last year. They were good. They were good for maybe a year or two before then. Then they had that bad year, and Staley got fired and all that. They did lose Joey Bosa, so he went to Buffalo. So they're gonna have a little bit of trouble on defense, but I think they still will be a top 10 defense this year. So that really helps their offense progressing. Obviously, Justin Herbert, franchise quarterback for them. Ladd McConkey is coming in the year 2, and then they just got to get some more of those other receivers to play it pretty well, and they can make a good regular season. It depends on the playoff, but there's just a playoff contender. They're probably a wild card or division round team, and maybe they'll get a playoff win. They haven't had it in a few years. I think since Tom Brady played. 49ers, I think they're just a playoff team as well. They're not borderline. They'll have a better season. They got Robert Saleh at defensive coordinator. It's questioning and interesting to see what their defense will do this year. And I don't know. What will they do on offense? Christian McCaffrey coming off an injury. Brock Purdy, he didn't have the best season last year, and it looks like he could be considered a system quarterback when he didn't have all of his weapons. But if you're a system quarterback, hey, just as long as you're good, because not all system quarterbacks, or not all quarterbacks in general, are good. But and who knows? Maybe Purdy isn't a system quarterback. Maybe he just had a rough year. He didn't. I mean, who knows? I mean, not many quarterbacks are going to go from that. With all those injuries. I mean, even he got injured, so it's hard to tell. But I think they're a playoff contender. Not Super Bowl contenders like they were a few years ago, but I can't say that yet. But I think they're a playoff contender. They will have a good regular season. They'll get probably about 10 to 11 wins, and they'll make the playoffs, I think. Panthers, I'm not going to put them borderline yet. Not yet. They've got, Tetrion McMillan from Arizona, can help them, can help Bryce Young. They've got an underrated running back out of Chuba Hubbard. They've got a defense that just has to get better. A secondary that is the secondary and the front line. The secondary is having trouble. That front is what keeps it at pace, but that team is just too inconsistent to compete. I think they'll have a better year. I just don't think they are going to be a borderline team. They might be near it, but I just don't think they're probably a top of the not this year tier. The Panthers. I don't see them making a chance at the playoffs this year, but who knows? Maybe I'll look at their schedule and think differently, because there are different strengths of schedules and all of that. The Seahawks, they're a borderline team, have been for years since they had Russell Wilson, and even then they were kind of in borderline. Now, of course, the years they were like one season, all that's like for not that, but. They don't have Geno Smith anymore. They're probably gonna start Sam Darnold. They drafted Milroe from Alabama in the later rounds, so they'll probably train him under him. Kenneth Walker, really good running back. He's pretty underrated. The wide receiver core, you got Cooper Kupp, which isn't as good, but he is a good key receiver to make those plays. They've got a defense that under Mike McDonald, he was a really good defense coordinator at the Ravens as the second year. So we're just gonna have to see where the Seahawks go. I can't call them a full playoff contender because they've been like this for a couple years now, and they may either make the playoffs or they don't. It's kind of hard to tell with them. They're borderline, even if they do make it. Borderline means they either barely miss, or barely make. That's what it is. I think they're one of those teams this year, so they could, but I'm not going to definitely say they're a playoff contender, obviously. They got the talent to do so, but it's just a questionable thing. The Buffalo Bills, absolute Super Bowl contenders. Josh Allen definitely, I think, he's made mistakes in the playoffs, but he's actually pretty good in the postseason, and he's coming off an MVP season, Super Bowl contender, he's definitely had a really good season last year with a lot of TDs in those later stretch of games. Helped my fantasy team. But the Bills and their defense is getting so much better. Sean McDermott's going to, I think, eventually lead the Bills there. They've got a pretty underrated receiving core, and Josh Allen can definitely make plays forward no matter what skill they have. They're a team we've seen make the AFC Championship a couple times since 2020. And they've made the divisional round. They are still, I believe, a Super Bowl contender, but the question is, will they? And when we get to the Ravens, that might be a question too. I can already go ahead and put that out there, that they're one of these two, and you probably know which one. The Packers. I don't know what's up with the hate with Green Bay. They are still a playoff contender. I think they still can make the playoffs. And of course, I could be looking at all these teams. I could be looking at the record saying, "Oh, well, maybe I was wrong." But as right now, looking at this, the Packers are playoff contenders. I mean, you got Josh Jacobs running back, Jordan Love. He still had a pretty good season last year. He wasn't. He's not gonna maybe not be Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, but he's gonna be a good quarterback for years to come for Green Bay. And I see them I see them right now being a playoff contender and a defense that is pretty good. And they're they have top 10 availability to have a spot in that conversation to be a pretty good defense. They've got the team to do it. Matt LaFleur has turned a team that didn't have Aaron Rodgers for a while, has kept the team going. They made the 7th seed and beat us, sadly. But almost beat the Niners in the divisional round. They're a team you got to keep hoping for if you're a Packers fan. They're a team that can do something. Dog Squad, we got the Saints next. I had to move my camera back to where I realized that. Okay, Saints. I didn't originally have them in draft time, but they are, I think this is just, I don't really trust them. They don't have really a QB. Kellen Moore's going to have to probably take a couple years to get it. I honestly think it was a good OC, but I mean, we had all those weapons. Yeah, something's going to happen, but who knows. I think it'll take them about a year to get going, and their defense is good, but I think their offense is all over the place. They got some good core receivers with Shaheed and Chris Olave. But I don't really trust them. They're always getting hurt, and they're just an injury-prone team. Not this year. Let's just see. Raiders, I think, are borderline. Pete Carroll's a good head coach, and Geno Smith is a team that can, at least we know, take you to the playoffs. And when you have, now they just got to get going on the receivers. You got to get Ashton Genty. They've got a good front line on the defensive side. They've got a good team that can just sneak in the playoffs. But will they? Let me know. I'll have my predictions for them soon. The Cowboys, they're a borderline team too. I honestly think, will be more in a playoff position, honestly, but I don't want to really put them in playoff contenders just yet. I think they're going to be eliminated. They'll be more like a Week 18 thing. Their schedule's pretty tough this year. They've got, obviously, we know their running back situation is probably their weakness, but they do have Jaden Blue. They got Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, a couple of those guys that can definitely help the team, maybe on goal line situations. Jaden Blue's a fast running back. And then, of course, you got Dak Prescott, franchise quarterback. Coming off, he's going to have probably a big year because he just come off an injury. Receivers, you got in addition to George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. I think, of course, with the new coaching style, it's going to take a little bit, which could affect their season, but I think a borderline team is where the Cowboys stand. Bears are a borderline team as well. They've got the talent to do so. I don't see them definitely making the playoffs because their division probably will be tough. But I think they will be. I think they honestly could be a playoff team. They have the addition of Ben Johnson, a head coach. Caleb Williams, we'll see what they can do. Their O-line maybe will get better. They got the receivers of DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And their defense is pretty good, has a pretty efficient defense that is able to make pretty big plays, have pretty big seasons, holding teams to a low amount of points. And the Bears are just a questionable team. I can't say they're a playoff contender because we've been saying that for years, and it just doesn't happen. Safe to say a borderline team is where they at, even though this is probably their best team in a while. But I just still want to set them at a borderline. But they're probably like Dallas. They got the team to do it, but they'll probably barely make it. And I'm not, but I can't say definitely, so I'm not going to say they're playoff contenders. Colts, draft time. It's a lower QB situation with them. Jonathan Taylor is kind of like, he's a good running back, but he's probably not. It's just all over the place with them. They're just not a team you don't really pay much attention to. It's hard to tell with them. They need a better roster, and they gotta get a. I think their head coach is on the hot seat. They've got to get more developed. It's time for the draft for them. Let's go back. Borderline for the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill could probably maybe his last season. You got Tua, you got Jalen Waddle. Mike McDaniels probably could be on his last season, but who knows? It's on the hot seat. He was good at first, but then I think he's put up, I think he's had too many games where he probably could have easily won, or, just against tougher teams. And their defense is usually in the middle of the range, maybe the top 10, maybe at the highest, or the lowest, as to say. Or at least I should know the highest, definitely. But it's not definite to say playoff contenders. Some of them are coming off injuries, especially Tua, after concussions and all that. They were having to switch out QBs a lot last year. It's definitely the Dolphins team that is probably borderline as well. Might be on the high end of more of a playoff team than usual. Patriots, yes, they've definitely got a more successful team. You know, Mike Vrabel is their new head coach. Drake May's probably going to have a bit of a breakout season. They've got it, and they have a receiver addition of Stephon Diggs, which I still think will be good. And their defense has been getting better. It's been progressing. The past couple years, they're a better team, more involved team now. Not going to probably get back to that dynasty, but they will have a chance of making the playoffs for the first time in a few years. I can definitely see them doing that, but right now they're borderline. The Lions, I'm definitely going to say they're Super Bowl contenders. You got Dan Campbell at head coach. You got such a talented team that there's no way, even though they got some coordinators, you know, Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson leaving, I still think they're Super Bowl contenders. Maybe not a 15-win season, but I still think they're an NFC Championship to Super Bowl team. And I know that they have all the talents, but just give them a couple years. And I think this year they can maybe make the Super Bowl. But I'm not as confident, I don't think, as last year. Bengals, no, borderline. I'm done saying they're a playoff team. They do this every year, and their defense, they don't know if they're going to pay Trey Hendrickson. They did get a better DC, and their offense is really good, but I can't say they're definite playoff contenders because I'm tired. And this is one team that I'm tired of saying that they will. Boom, that's the only reason I have. Not this year for the Tennessee Titans is because Cam Ward is probably going to be, you know, kind of like maybe Caleb Williams was last year, or maybe Bryce Young was. He's going to be that roll-on pick that's going to probably be good, but not have a good enough core. And and the coaching staff isn't the best for them. The Titans defense isn't the best well-known, middle of the pack to below average defense overall. They don't have the type of receivers anymore. They're going to have to develop more and more. The reason I'm saying that it's not this year, they're on the low end, but the Titans probably could also maybe. It's a low division, so they could honestly just put up second place in that division. But it's probably not this year to make the playoffs for them. But we'll see. Maybe I'll look at their record. Maybe they'll knock out the park. I already had the Texans, though, doing really well in the regular season, so they probably won't win the division. But they're not the overall team that you want to probably see in a playoff game, and they'd have to make a run in the regular season to even probably make it. The Eagles definitely Super Bowl contenders. They got the whole talent, whole shebang. Next year on the Super Bowl winning head coach Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Their O-line is one of the best in the nation. Their defense is one of the best in the nation. And then they're just all the way over on them. Made since they won the Super Bowl last year. And I hate saying as a Cowboys fan, they knew what was up, and they will probably make it again. I can see the back-to-back from the Eagles. Jaguars, I mean, they got the Buccaneers OC. It's kind of hard to tell, but the borderline, I think, is where it sits for Jacksonville. I was going to go not this year, but they've got the guys to make another playoff run and at least to make the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence got to stay healthy. He's actually good. He's kind of I think he's morally underrated than people say. Travis Etienne, underrated as well. They've got a good front on the defensive side. They got to get their secondary back to, you got Josh Hines Island and Trayvon Walker leading that defensive front. They've got to get better on the secondary, and that's what's going to have to be improvement this year if they want to make the playoffs. They got the good receiving core, but they don't have Christian Kirk anymore, and they're going to have to settle on Evan Ingram, which I think he's still in Jacksonville. But that's what's going to be the case for Jacksonville. But I think they are a borderline team. Broncos, playoff contenders. They're not Super Bowl contenders, but I could definitely see them making getting their first playoff win since 2015. Bo Nix is probably going to be the franchise quarterback. Sean Payton's doing a great job with the Broncos right now. After you think he'd be not as good anymore when he moved from the Saints to like Fox to the Broncos after being hired a couple years ago, especially having a mid-season to below average season. And then making the playoffs last year. And then, their defense is one of the top, one of the best secondaries in the league. Patrick Surtain winning Defensive Player of the Year last year. They are a team to watch for in the playoffs and have a good regular season. It'll be fun watching them. You don't usually hear the Broncos being good. The Giants, they got a good defensive front, and their quarterback situation, we'll give them not this year. Their quarterback situation is much better. Jackson Dart, Russell Wilson, who knows? Their O-line's just not going to be able to succeed. It's going to have trouble, but their D front is pretty good. It's just, they got some improvements that it's probably just not going to be their year. And they've got some underrated wide receivers, obviously rated equally with the league neighbors, but underrated running backs, just to say, with Tyree Tracy. The Vikings, I think they're a definite as well. I think they're a borderline team. And they've got improvement in J.J. McCarthy, maybe having a chance of his first starting as long as he can stay healthy. I don't think he's playing in the preseason, but maybe he'll have to because he hasn't really gotten any reps in games yet. But you got that, and then you have Aaron Jones, running back, who had a pretty good season last year. You got Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers so far. Defense has been much better. Last year they were like top 5 defense for quite a while. Their team, although I just don't know how much confidence. I can't say they're a playoff contender, but I think they can definitely be on the high end of that playoff. The Cardinals, they're also a borderline team. They've got a team that they built. They got a roster that can make it. Kyler Murray's got to stay healthy. He's actually underrated as well. James Conner's underrated. The whole Cardinals team basically underrated. Marvin Harrison Jr. So they're one of the best receiver on the team, and a defense that has to get better. I do say they're a borderline team, but I don't think they're on the higher end of the playoffs. Ravens are Super Bowl contenders. Look, I don't think they're a team to make it, but when I've seen them have a chance of making the AFC Championship about a lot, and they are contending for the Super Bowl. I just don't know will they be able to make it. Lamar isn't always the best in the postseason, and the whole Ravens team isn't the best in the postseason. They make coaching mistakes as well. John Harbaugh and the whole team, the whole staff. Derrick Henry, we know they're going to have a good regular season. Jackson, Henry, they've got some pretty underrated receivers. Now, Zay Flowers is maybe equally rated, but, Rashad Bateman is a good receiver. Their defense is usually top 5. It's going to probably be pretty good regular season for them, but it depends on what they're going to do in the postseason. Chiefs might as well put the Super Bowl contender up there. They'll always find a way to make the Super Bowl and have a good regular season. Now, I ain't going to probably say it. The Buccaneers, they're a playoff contender as well. They, Mike Evans hit 1,000 yards. I think honestly, you can't believe what I'm saying, but underrated. I think people hate on him too much, and people say he's overrated. I think he's underrated. He's putting up way too many yards, and I don't think he's getting as much respect as he should at some point. And then you also, they're better. Todd Bowles leading the defense. They've been inconsistent, but they've had pretty good games as well. I think they've more good than bad. But I think they make the playoffs, especially the division they're in. The Jets, I think they're borderline as well. I think the borderline Jets I think they'll have a better year. Justin Fields at quarterback for them. Aaron Glenn's going to help that defense and help that team maybe have a chance of making their first playoff since 2010. Who knows what they'll do? It's the Jets, and they could turn out to be, looking like they'll be good, but then they won't. Garrett Wilson is a pretty dang good receiver. Made that one-hand catch. I'm not just going about that, but he's pretty underrated as well. And Breece Hall, I honestly think he's overrated, but that doesn't mean he's bad. I think he's still a good running back. He makes some pretty good plays. I've seen him in the regular season. So if they want to just not be in the regular season, they want to get the postseason, I think this is the year they do it. Pittsburgh Steelers, speaking of the team that Justin Fields was on last year, I think is also a borderline team. They'll probably just go 9-8 again. Enough said. They got Aaron Rodgers. I think he'll just do just enough. Their defense is one of the best, of course, usual. T.J. Watt they've got to extend him at some point, but it's basically that for the Steelers. They're just always in that range of very borderline teams. Playoff contenders for the Commanders, a much better offseason than usual, a much better regular season than usual, making the NFC Championship the first time before Dallas, sadly, the first time in about 30 years. And Jane Daniels, we'll see if he has a sophomore slump or not. The running backs, Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, they're pretty good. They're a solid set of running backs. But Jane Daniels is probably I think, will have a spectacular season. But maybe he won't shine like he did at his rookie year last year. Terry McLaurin, an underrated receiver right there. Dan Quinn's getting that defense to be much more efficient and kind of like what he had all those years being a defensive coordinator before. And then the Texans, I think, is also a playoff contender, especially the division they're in. But C.J. Stroud, I think, will have a better year, will have a breakout year. As long as the receiving core can stay healthy with Nico Collins and Tank Dell, they'll be pretty good. And then that defense has been really, really top of the list in terms of defensive rankings in the NFL for about a year or two now, since the Miko Ryans and the addition of some other players came into the plays and the Texans started rebuilding and getting better. Well, that will end today's video. Take a screenshot if you want all that. Share it to your friends. Share this video to your friends. Tell them to subscribe. be part of the Dog Squad, be part of the Golden Dog Squad, subscribe to Shark 16 TreyDOGaming, link in the description below. Remember, I will be time at some point, not going to tell you when or when I can get back on. I'll be away from my computer for about a week now. Could be on vacation, may just be at home, but be all away from the computer. Could be just out of town, just here in my state. Could be just spending time with people for a week, you know, with my friends or whatever. You'll never know. Maybe I'm at some camp. I don't know. So we'll see you next time, Dog Squad. Thank you so much for watching. I will hope you enjoyed this video. And once again, I guess I'll see you next time, Dog Squad. Peace.